Tonight, we're counting down the top 5 greater Seattle areas for weekend nights, from city-adjacent islands to sound-facing suburbs and Eastside hubs. The place that takes number 1 may not be the first name you guessed. For this countdown, we're looking across Seattle plus the suburbs, because a strong weekend night in the region does not always mean staying inside Seattle city limits. Some places stand out because they feel connected to the water, some because they sit along major corridors, and some because they give you that bigger downtown energy without being downtown Seattle itself. The focus here is nightlife and dining, places that make sense when the work week is over, the evening is open, and you want somewhere with enough character to carry the night. Number 5 is Everett. Everett sits about 25 miles north of Seattle and is the county seat of Snohomish County, as well as the county's most populous city. That gives it a more established urban feel than many people expect when they think about a suburb farther north. For weekend nights, Everett earns its spot because it brings a city-scale setting within the broader Puget Sound region, and Walk Score puts it at 95 in 2026, which helps support an evening built around moving from one stop to the next without making the whole night feel scattered. What makes Everett interesting is that it is not trying to be a Seattle neighborhood transplanted north. It has its own center of gravity, tied to Snohomish County and the larger Puget Sound area, and that gives weekend nights a different rhythm. If your version of a night out is less about being in the densest part of Seattle and more about finding a full city environment with room to breathe, Everett starts the countdown with a strong case. It also sets the tone for what this ranking is really about, not just fame, but how a place functions after dark on a Friday or Saturday. Number 4 is Edmonds. Edmonds is in the southwest corner of Snohomish County, facing Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains to the west, which gives its weekend night setting a built-in scenic backdrop. That water and mountain orientation matters, because an evening here can feel connected to the landscape before dinner, after dinner, or while simply walking between stops. Walk Score puts Edmonds at 91 in 2026, so the area has a strong pedestrian foundation for a night focused on dining, strolling, and staying local, rather than constantly relocating. Edmonds lands above Everett because its weekend night appeal is especially tied to atmosphere. Facing Puget Sound is not just a map detail. It changes the mood of an evening. There is a reason waterfront-facing places around Greater Seattle often become weekend destinations. The setting does some of the work before the night even begins. Edmonds brings that western view toward the Olympics, and that helps it stand out in a region where so many good nights are shaped by proximity to water, hills, and changing light over the sound. Number 3 is Duvall. Duvall is in King County, located on SR 203, halfway between Monroe and Carnation, and it had a population of 8,034 at the 2020 census. That makes it a very different kind of weekend night pick from the larger urban centers. The appeal here is scale. Duvall offers a more compact setting, and Walk Score puts it at 76 in 2026, which supports a more concentrated night rather than a sprawling one. Duvall is the curveball in the middle of the ranking, and it deserves that position because not every weekend night has to be big, loud, or skyline-driven. Its location between Monroe and Carnation gives it a corridor town identity within the Seattle region, and that can make the evening feel more grounded and local. For viewers who usually associate weekend nights with Seattle, Bellevue, or the waterfront suburbs, Duvall is the reminder that smaller King County cities can still have a place in the conversation. It may not bring the same scale as the top 2, but that is exactly what gives it a different kind of pull. Number 2 is Mercer Island. Mercer Island is a city in King County, located on an island of the same name in the southern portion of Lake Washington. It sits between Seattle and the Eastside, connected to the mainland on both sides by bridges carrying Interstate 90 and Link Light Rail. That geography is the story here. Weekend nights on Mercer Island are shaped by water, access, and the feeling of being close to major centers without being fully absorbed by either one. Mercer Island comes in this high because it has one of the most distinctive settings in the entire Seattle metropolitan area. An island city in Lake Washington naturally gives a night out a different frame, especially when the route there already reminds you where you are, crossing water between Seattle and the Eastside. It is not the highest walk score pick here, with walk score placing it at 50 in 2026. But the ranking is not only about walking block after block. For weekend nights, Mercer Island's strength is its location, its lake identity, and the way it sits at the crossroads of two major sides of the metro area. Before we reveal number one, notice how spread out this countdown has been. We started north, in Everett, moved to sound-facing Edmonds, shifted into the Snoqualmie Valley side of King County with Duvall, and then landed on an island in Lake Washington. That spread is important because Greater Seattle weekend nights are not one single experience. A night out in the region can mean a larger urban center, a waterfront suburb, a smaller city along a state route, or a lake-connected community between major job and dining hubs. And that is what makes the number one pick so interesting. Number one is Bellevue. Bellevue is in the Eastside region of King County, located across Lake Washington from Seattle, and it is the third largest city in the Seattle metropolitan area. It is also the fifth largest city in Washington, which gives it the scale to support a major weekend night scene in its own right. Walk score puts Bellevue at 94 in 2026, and that matters for nightlife and dining, because a strong evening often depends on how easily the area lets you move between restaurants, lounges, streets, and late-night energy without losing momentum. Bellevue takes the top spot because it combines size, location, and Eastside gravity in a way the other areas do not quite match. Being across Lake Washington from Seattle gives it a separate identity, but it is still deeply tied into the region's weekend patterns. It is large enough to feel like a true metropolitan center, not simply a quieter alternative. And that is why it can land at number one for weekend nights. If you expected the top pick to be inside Seattle proper, Bellevue is the twist. The strongest overall weekend night case comes from across the lake. So, to recap, number 5 is Everett, number 4 is Edmonds, number 3 is Duvall, number 2 is Mercer Island, and number 1 is Bellevue. Each one brings a different version of a Greater Seattle night out, from Snohomish County city energy to Puget Sound views, smaller King County scale, Lake Washington Island geography, and a full East Side urban center. And yes, that Bellevue finish really is the one that changes the shape of the whole ranking. What did we miss? Which neighborhood, suburb, downtown block, restaurant zone, or weekend night spot would have made your personal top 5? And which one here would you rank higher? If you enjoyed the countdown, give the video a like and subscribe for more Seattle neighborhood deep dives across the city and the suburbs. Also, tell us what you want next. Best waterfront areas, best coffee neighborhoods, best Eastside downtowns, or a deep dive on one specific Seattle area community.